In this class, we will understand one of the very important concept in arrays, which is array indexing and memory address in C programming language. So this concept is very important to understand. So we request you to watch this video as many times as possible until you get the clarity. So before going deep into the concept of array indexing, first we will understand a meaning for the word called mnemonic. What is meant by mnemonic is, a mnemonic is a memory aid. Means a pattern, a word or a device that helps you remember something complicated. Whenever we come across with a complicated concepts, so we need a memory aid so that we can remember that complicated issue. So the best way to understand this is the example. So this is the pattern of words Roy G. Biv. So this is how we remember the sequence of colors that appear in a rainbow. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet. So this is the sequence of pattern. This is the pattern by which we can remember the sequence of colors in a rainbow. Why we are discussing this, the meaning of this word here is, the name of the array in the C programming language is called as mnemonic. So what it remembers and why it is a memory aid is, the name of the array is always replaced by the starting address of the first element in the array. So what it means? Once again I repeat, the name of an array is always replaced by the starting address of the first element in the array. So what it means, that we will try to understand by using this example. So in this example, I have taken some sequence of programming steps. By using these programming steps, we will understand the concept of array indexing. And here we are having a sequence of memory locations. So some starting from 0, let's take from 100 to 116 and so on. So this is the visualization of RAM that we are having, that we got used to in our previous classes also. Now the first line of code, what happens on the memory? Whenever this line of code gets executed, what happens on the memory is, here we are initializing 4 elements, an array A of 4, and here we are having 4 elements, and how the memory will get allocated. So let's assume that the size of each element, and it is an integer array. So the size of each element is 4 bytes. So starting from 100, the array has been allocated. Let's assume that this is the point where from which the array has been allocated, and it is a contiguous memory, right, which we have discussed in our previous class. So let's assume that the first 4 locations from 100 to 103 is allocated for A of 0, and from 104 to 107, let's assume that it is allocated. So it is a sequence, it is for A1, and from 111, so 108 to 111, so it is for A2, and from 112 to 115, it is for A3. Now what are the elements, corresponding elements of A of 0? Here we are going to store 5, the binary sequence, but we have represented it in decimal, and A of 1 6, A of 2 is 7, and A of 3 is 8. Okay. Now what we have discussed, a name of an array is a mnemonic, means always the name of an array is always replaced by the starting address of the first element of the array. So what is the starting address? It is 100. So means the array name is always replaced with 100. So this is a memory aid. This is why we call it as, the name of the array is called as an mnemonic. Why it is a memory aid is, whatever the operations that we do on this array, it is going to use this memory aid, this mnemonic, this address as a basis, so that we can calculate the exact memory location and access that element. So this is the process. This process is what we call it as array indexing. So how that calculation is done, that we will try to understand. So this is the formula used by the compiler. It is base address, means this 100, plus index into size of an element. So consider this second operation, x is equal to a of 2, means a of 2. What is that a of 2? The element is 7. I want this 7 to be accessed and it has to be stored in x. Now how the calculations are done by this array name and index? That is what we call it as array indexing. So the array name is 100. So as we have discussed, mnemonic. So this is what we call it as the base address. Now using placing the values in this formula, the base address is 100 and the index is 2, a of 2. So that is what the index is, into size of the element. The element is of type, all the elements are integer types. So the size of element, let's assume that it is 4 bytes. So here we are going to take it as 4. 4 into 2, 8, and 8 plus 100 is going to be 108. So what is the starting address of a of 2? So if you see here, it is 108. So from 108, the compiler is going to access the next 4 bytes, 108, 109, 110 and 111. So with this, all the 4 bytes that are allocated for 7 will be accessed by the computer. So try to understand that. So this is how the array indexing is done by the compiler. This is how we access the elements of an array. Whatever the operations, it may be an update, it may be an access, the compiler always uses this formula, this array indexing concept, to get into the elements of an array. And the very important point that you need to understand is the name of the array is a mnemonic. The name of an array is the starting address of the first element in the array. This is very important to understand. And this is the reason, this is the first time you are understanding that a variable name is a memory location. So this is the point where we are getting introduction, we are introduced to the very important concept of C programming language, which is pointers. Okay, so this is where a variable which is having the ability to store the address of the memory location is what we call it as a pointer. This is just an introduction. So don't go deep into the concept of pointers, because we are having a dedicated section for the concepts of pointers. So there we will be detailedly understanding the concepts of arrays and pointers also. A dedicated section is there for pointers. Okay, so this is a very important point to understand, which is array indexing. So that's it for this video. In the next class, we will see how to dynamically access the how to give. So in this example, what we have seen is always we have seen initializing. We have initialized the elements while declaring the array. Okay, but is it possible to initialize the elements of an array while executing the program? While in the process of executing the program. So what I mean to say is, by using the scanf, we will be allocating the values to the variable. In the same way, can we allocate the values of the variable, values of the array while executing the program in the runtime? Can we access? So that can be done. So that we are going to understand in our next coming class. So that's it for this video. See you in the next class.